Hey, this is that moment of truth. This is that moment of truth. I know we're a little late today, but here we go. Is the internet going to give us another day? Uh, yep, they are. Rockfin's awake. It was pretty much neck and neck. In fact, I think Rockfin won by a little bit. You guys know I always tell you the score. I always tell you the score, and I think Rockfin won by a tiny, tiny bit. So Twitter was first. Twitter's always first, and then Rockfin, and then YouTube. But either way, we're gonna get right to it. As I adjust my knee, what are you gonna do? What's up, everybody? Good afternoon to all my East Coasters. Good morning to all my West Coasters. Good evening if you're in an evening time zone, and to everybody in the future, Australia, New Zealand. I hope all's great. Since you have an extra day of science, please solve climate change and text me the solution. I'll spread the word. All right. Shout out to everyone who makes this show possible. Our friends over at Indy Left. Indy Left is the place to grab the content from all the content creators you know and love. They curate a list and they update it twice a day of streamers and article writers and videos and everything. It's a one-stop shop for your news. To find out everything that they got going on and to subscribe to their Discord community. They got an interactive Discord community. Check them out at independentleft.media. That's independentleft.media. So, folks, today's episode took a very, is going to take, and I guess took past tense too, a different turn very rapidly. So my guest today was going to come on here to talk about a new project called Panquake that we're still going to talk about it. It's not like we're not going to talk about it. We still are. But there has been some very breaking news in regards to Julian Assange. And my guest today felt a little weird promoting a project while this is simultaneously going on. So we're going to talk about it. And we're still going to talk about Panquake briefly, but I'm probably going to have her on a future episode to do a more extensive dive into what Panquake's all about. But first, we're going to be talking about what's going on with Julian Assange. But without further ado, please welcome my guest for today, Miss Suzie Dawson. Suzie, how are you?
Hi, Ron. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So here's some breaking news regarding Julian Assange. U.S. tries again to extradite WikiLeaks Assange from Britain. This is a headline from Reuters. So basically what happened today, I found out this morning, and you found out recently as well. The U.S. is still trying to get Julian Assange to the United States. And so they are appealing the decision that he could not be extradited because of his mental health. And there will be a hearing, another hearing in late October. So, Suzie, what exactly is going on there? Go into the details here.
Well, the US had wanted to appeal.
Wow. Okay.
And then,
hold on, Suzie. We lost you for a second there. We lost you for a second. We got you back now. All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Hi.
Okay, can you start over again? Because we lost you for a few minutes there. As soon as you said, well, the U.S. just froze. Interesting timing, huh? Interesting timing.
Absolutely.
All right, so if you don't mind, please start again.
So the US had 5 grounds on which they wanted to appeal, and several of those grounds had been struck down by a prior judge. Today, that decision was effectively reversed by the Court of Appeals, and the US is now allowed to appeal on all 5 grounds. And in particular, they're going after the original finding from earlier this year that Julian was a suicide risk if he was extradited to the US, which was the decision that had led to the extradition being struck down in the lower court. And so this is a really sad day for Julian and his family and his supporters, a dark day, and we now have to wait to see what happens in October.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, again, we were all happy when they ruled that he can't be sent to the United States, because if he's sent to the United States, I mean, geez, really, they're going to kill him. I mean, really, it's like, what else can you say about that? If he gets sent to the United States, the public will have no idea what they do.
Yeah, and certainly they seem to be hurting him where he is right now. I think this is very much an active case of torture. This is not just that he was tortured previously or that he may be tortured in the future. The reports on his physical condition today in court were extremely discouraging. He was unrecognizable, according to several of the people who were able to see him on the live stream. And that's extremely disturbing. And the way in which he's been silenced and unable really to tell anybody what's happening to him is even more so. I mean, Stella and his partner Stella and his two children were only just recently able to see him for the first time this year because of COVID. And I believe that today Stella was able to touch Julian for the first time in 17 months. So the isolation that he's facing is near total. Even his lawyers have had extreme difficulty for protracted periods of time having any communication with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable to kind of just go through this event in real time and looking around and saying, what kind of society are we that something like this can happen? And
That puts a journalist in a supermax prison, a journalist who's never touched a hair on anybody's head, who has no criminal past, no violent, has not engaged in any violence, is literally in a supermax prison with murderers and torturers. It's absolutely sickening and grotesquely unjust.
yeah, and who committed the quote unquote crime of publishing documents that powerful people didn't want seen. That
Absolutely.
that taught us about war crimes, that taught us about, unethical, election practices, and that's putting it gently. That's what he did. That's what WikiLeaks did and continues to do. They've never had to extract a document, and it's absolutely remarkable. And so getting back to that ruling, we were all happy that he's not getting sent to the United States. However, the ruling was not, a complete delivery of justice, because they basically said, oh, he's a medical risk. What we would have liked to have heard them say was, this case is completely bogus on every freaking level. Let's free this man immediately. That's what we wanted.
And
We
they
didn't
could
get
have
that.
bailed him and they didn't.
Right.
Even when they found he couldn't be extradited, 2 days later there was a bail hearing. They still denied him bail,
Right.
which meant he was kept in prison without charge. He is facing no charges in the UK.
Right.
And he's in a supermax facing no charges.
So it was a victory in the sense that, okay, he's not going to the United States. That's a relief. We could still basically fight another day, but this is still not what we wanted completely. And now they're trying to roll that back. I got to ask you, one of the things that I've done just in my life that has helped, or I'd like to think it has helped. I guess maybe I don't know if it actually has or not, but I've done things just as simple as posting on my social media, even like my personal Facebook and stuff like that. Which, my personal Facebook is mostly, just people I know in my personal life. And I've just said, hey, look, there's a lot of misinformation, a lot surrounding Julian Assange, especially here in the United States. I mean, if all you're getting is the corporate media's take on Assange, you are getting nothing but lies, just straight up lies. And so I've said, look, if you're unsure about what's going on here, and you kind of want to have a better assessment on what's going on and why this man should be freed immediately, email me and just ask me anything you want. I don't care, and I'm not gonna shame you. I'm not gonna say, oh, you're so stupid. How do you not know this? Whatever it is, however, whatever you heard on MSNBC. You can ask me about it, and I will just objectively tell you my response to that. And some people did, like some people just in my personal life have said, well, what about this? What about this? What about that? And they're just repeating establishment talking points. And I said, well, here's what's really going on. And here's some sources that back up what's really going on. Because if you just take a second to just scratch beneath the surface, you realize just how much bullshit they're spewing at you. And I'd like to think that, I mean, even though it is a very small thing, it's helped a little bit. And I feel like if everybody who is pushing for the freedom of Assange did something, and tons of people are doing a lot, and that means a lot. I think slowly but surely more people are coming around on this. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that. What you're doing is a very important thing. by connecting with people one-on-one, because when they're passively reading articles, they form an opinion in a different way than if they're speaking back and forth with someone in an open dialogue. I think Julian would applaud that too, actually, your method there. But also, and I know I'd just like to shout out Caitlin Johnston has an absolutely monster article, which is the ultimate debunking of every piece of misinformation out there around Julian, which is brilliant. My own article, 25,000 word being Julian Assange, was a straight up debunking of myths about WikiLeaks and Julian too. Julian heavily promoted that article. It's worth reading, even though it's a few years old now. But I also, what's really grating on me at the moment is there's Julian, the poster on the wall Julian, the icon Julian, but then there's the real Julian, and I feel like often the real Julian gets really lost in all of this. I have been hearing throughout the last 6, 9, 12 months from well-meaning people who are trying to support him and trying to promote his cause, saying things like, oh, well, you know, maybe he's an asshole. I don't care if he's an asshole because free press, free speech, freedom of information, I support him on principle. And on one side, I understand why they're saying that, because they're trying to get people to take the personality dimension out of it, because that's many times what mainstream media used as an attack to undermine Julian, was these personality issues. But if you actually know Julian, he's not an asshole. Not only is he not an asshole, he is one of the most supportive and giving people that you could ever come into contact with, and so intelligent. And he supported so many people, even to his own detriment, over and over again. Time in and time out, he took risks. Even when he was already in a precarious situation, he took additional risks. He put himself in additional danger. When he saved Edward Snowden, Julian was already up shit creek. He was committed to doing WikiLeaks party in Australia. He was trying to get a senatorship in Aussie to try and find a diplomatic resolution to his own situation, and also to advance the principles of WikiLeaks at a state and political level in Australia. And he saw that Snowden needed help. He dived in, put himself on the line. He knew it would worsen his position. He knew if he snatched Snowden from literally the jaws of death in Hong Kong, which is absolutely, I don't know if you remember 2013, but the first period in June 2013, we got up every single day, and the first thing we wondered was, has Ed been caught yet? Has Ed been killed yet? Julian snatched Snowden out of that situation and then pushed through helping Ed through the asylum process in Russia, when Julian was supposed to be out self-promoting for WikiLeaks party. And Julian dropped that effort, which so many resources and so much time had gone into, in order to instead save this man, to save Snowden. That's just one example, and it is a huge example, but Julian did this many, many times for many people. There are journalists whose lives he saved who people don't know the names of. There are publishers whose lives he saved who he got asylum for in various countries, who people don't know the names of. I mean, the last time I talked to Julian was about 2 days before he was arrested from the Ecuadorian embassy. I'd been in near constant contact with him prior to that, and he was helping me with my journalism. He was giving me tips. He would go and watch me do interviews, and then he would be sending me tips saying, oh, Suzie, try this with your lighting, oh, do this with that. Or he would be like reviewing drafts of my article, like mentoring me, helping me. And for no, I mean, he could go work with any journalist in the world. You know, I was just a grassroots activist from New Zealand, and I'm just one of many people that he mentored in that way. And across the prior decade, he probably mentored dozens or hundreds of people in that way. And I've watched people take everything they could from him and then burn him in the public arena. I've watched him get burned by people he platformed and tried to help. But fortunately, a lot of the people he platformed and helped have stood by him to this day as well. But that's the Julian that I know. And that is the Julian that takes risks, that cares about people enough to put himself in harm's way. That person is not an asshole. And when I hear people say, oh, well, who cares if he's an asshole? I feel like, no, people need to get the message he's not an asshole. He's the opposite. He is the opposite. He's someone who put other people before himself. And that's why he's taken the risks he has. That's why he's done the work that he has. And that's why we have got to band together and save him. We've got to collectively return the favors that he did for so many people and so much in our society.
Sure. Yeah. And I totally see where you're coming from. One thing I would say to that, I think sometimes when people say stuff like, well, his personality, whatever it may be, is totally irrelevant. I think sometimes, like, because I mean, when I've been debating this with other people who make those things like, well, supposedly he's this and this, I think pointing out that that's irrelevant, it's not necessarily, saying maybe he is or isn't an asshole. It's more just saying, you have no basis to say these things because you don't know the guy, and neither do I. And I mean, not you. I mean, you do, but like, when you have these other conversations, you don't know this guy. I don't know this guy, and his personality. And I mean, just one, for instance, that comes to my mind is when they were making this huge thing when he was in the courtroom, and eventually he just sort of was like, "This is nonsense," and people were like, "Oh, he's so unstable." Listen, and I said, if you went through what he went through, what would you say? If you were in solitary confinement for 7+ years and have been through the stuff this guy has been through for publishing documents and doing your job, I don't know about you, I'd say a lot more severe things than this is nonsense. I'd be saying a lot angrier things than that. And you want to make it about a personality? What the hell is wrong with you? So I think sometimes when people say those sort of things like that has nothing to do with anything, that's kind of what they're getting at. And it's because they don't have the experience you do. Like I have no personal exposure to the guy, so I can't speak on that one way or another. You can, because you have had personal exposure to the guy. And I think it's very important that you do.
I'm conflicted about it. Maybe I should speak more. I feel like there are people who are closer to him and who have different types of relationship with him that are in an even better position to put forward the case that Julian is actually a very altruistic person, and that courage is born of that altruism. He wants to give. What did he say? I love crushing bastards. That's Julian. Like, if he sees somebody who's being done wrong, or if he sees a whole society that's being done wrong, then he will throw himself into the middle, even if he might get hit by a bus for it. Like, he will do that. He will intervene. And to be a person who's willing to do that, that's a really rare and special type of person, to be able to put aside any inherent self-preservation and instead want to preserve a society, want to preserve other people. And Julian fundamentally does believe in democratic principles, even though he knows that they aren't being observed, even though he knows he's the living proof that every democratic promise that we're made in the West is hollow. He does believe that they should exist and that they should be preserved. And that, again, is a huge part of what he's doing. He's trying to practice the democratic principles that we were promised, even though our overlords and governments do not practice them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And do you think, I mean, I kind of asked this before, but I want you to just sort of give me your honest take on it without any strings attached to the question. Do you think more people are coming around on this?
I think that the movement is at the strongest point it's ever been. I was just thinking to myself today, he's got every NGO on board. He's got dozens of MPs across Europe, dozens of MPs, and cross-party as well. Dozens of MPs now in Australia, including the leader of the opposition, I think, as of this week. He's got dozens of MPs in the UK on his side. If you can't get traction, if you can't get a result out of the size and the high profile of the support movement that Julian currently has, that spells something dire for all of us, because he has thousands of journalists on his side. He has hundreds of doctors on his side. He has got the biggest human rights organizations in the world on his side, and Reporters Without Borders as well, and so many others. I think the movement is nearing its peak in terms of size and power. It is actually very far advanced, and it's overdue, because it shouldn't have taken 10 years to get to that point. I understand why it took 10 years to take that point. There has been the greatest amount of resources set against the creation and growth of a movement in support of Julian than any other movement that I'm ever aware of. Vast amounts of resources went into suppressing it, undermining it, and they were able to slow it down for some time, but ultimately they've lost that part of the battle. There is now a cacophony, really. I mean, we've seen in the last 12 months the opinion pieces in the Washington Post, with the institutions which are inherently opposed to calling out the empire and supporting Julian, but they've been forced to, because they can only maintain the silence to a point. They're at the point now where they can't maintain that silence. But we've still seen no movement from the judiciary or no movement from the governments, who ultimately hold the keys to his supermax prison cell. And they may just continue to put the middle finger up to the entire civil society. And I don't know what it's going to take to change that, to turn it around. I don't know. I guess keep pushing harder and pushing bigger, but it's unprecedented. It's completely unprecedented, the situation. But then, as has been said before, everything about Julian's situation is completely unprecedented. We can't think of when was the last time they went after someone as vehemently as they've gone after Julian.
Yeah, I mean, there's, yeah, I mean, it's hard watching it unfold in real time, because you just think like, okay, this is, and when you see what Julian Assange is going through, and you see what Edward Snowden is going through, and what Chelsea Manning is going through, Daniel Hale was just sentenced recently, and keep in mind, this is under the Espionage Act, which has really no bearing to be a thing anymore. For anyone not in the know, the Espionage Act is this thing of the United States that came about during World War I, and it's broad and it's vague, and it basically says, hey, you can't do anything that undermines our military during wartime. And this was under the and keep in mind, this happened during a world war. This came out during a world war, and then later again in World War II. So it was meant to try to stop something like spies in the context of a world frickin' war. Well, guess what? We're not in a world war right now. So what are the military interests, quote unquote, of the United States? Well, it's bombing the Middle East at the behest of oil companies. That's the quote unquote war the United States is involved in now. That's what we do around the world. We're the frickin' bad guys. So where would the Espionage Act be utilized? It would be utilized against whistleblowers and publishers who are exposing the U.S. war crimes around the world. And that's who it's used against.
Sure, and they had to go back to 1910 to find a law that would be even vaguely relevant, because it's such a flagrant violation of the Constitution.
Yep, absolutely.
Which also Julian is a huge believer in. Julian is actually a fan of and believer in the First Amendment. Julian many times spoke about how much he valued that American principle, that world famous American principle.
Yeah. So what are we facing, and what is Julian facing in late October? What could potentially happen there? I mean, could they just rule that he has to be extradited right away? Would there be another appeal? Could it be, could they rule in favor of, his mental health as a detriment a second time? Like, what are all the potential outcomes in October? Do we even know all the potential outcomes?
Well, I'm not a lawyer at
Sure.
all, and I'm not a member of the legal team, and so I would rather leave it to them to speak about anything relating to legal possibilities.
Okay.
But we can say quite fairly that anything could happen. And I don't think it's even about October. I think anything could happen between now and October. We don't know. Stella said the process is the punishment. And that's what we're seeing right now. When you see the condition of Julian after 10 years of persecution by them, where he looks like he's aged 30 years in 10 years, that is the punishment. The punishment is already being meted out. Whether or not he is convicted, the punishment is already being meted out. They've already found him guilty and they're already punishing him. The court is a piece of theatre where they pretend that he is being judged, but already they judged him years ago when they set the CIA against him to spy on him and his attorneys, to undermine him and his relationships, when they set the world media against him in 2010, in September of 2010, 6 weeks, I believe, after the Iraq war logs. The global media campaign began to demonize Julian and teach the world to hate him. That was the beginning of the judgment and of the punishment. Everything that we're seeing happen to him, this is already the sentence. He's been sentenced and he's been serving that sentence for actually 11 years this year. And it's happening in front of all of our eyes. What happens in the show trial, which is basically what it is like a piece of reality television, but the punishment, the judgment is already happening.
Yeah, I think it
I'm
was.
really sorry to be so dark and macabre. Like, I'm just telling you honestly how I see
Well,
it.
it's what the world presented us with today. So it's okay.
Absolutely.
And
And you know,
the reason I
yeah.
say October is because according to this Reuters piece, what we know so far, and again, we're talking things that are unrolling in real time here, folks. Lawyers for both sides, this according to Reuters, have agreed the full appeal hearing should be scheduled for October 27th and 28th. So that's when this hearing is, allegedly going to be as of right now. And yeah, I mean, I can't speak to all the legal possibilities either. Neither one of us are attorneys, but I suppose, yeah, like anything's possible. And the biggest fear is that he gets sent to the United States.
I understand why it's the biggest fear. For me, it's not the biggest fear. I'd say it's the second biggest fear.
What's
And
the
I don't
first
want to
biggest?
speak what the first biggest fear is. The first biggest fear is that he doesn't make it there, but for other reasons. What they're doing to him is literally horrific, and that's what I'm trying to say. It's unfolding on a daily basis. It's not a matter of he just chills, kicks up his heels in prison and waits to see what happens with extradition. He's being punished every single day now, and it's been going on since the second they got their hands on him and got him in there. But even prior to that in the embassy, if you look at any of the medical reports of what he was going through in the embassy, if you look at the medical reports of what he was going through in Wandsworth prison when he was first arrested, even before he went to the Ecuadorian embassy, them putting metal ball bearings in his food so that it cracked his teeth open when he ate in the prison, his shoulder injury and not having an MRI for 6 years of needing one, not having root canals that he needed because he couldn't get dental treatment. This is just, it's endless torture. It's been going on for 11 straight years of it. And so that's why I say, and yes, a US Supermax will be worse than a UK Supermax, but a UK Supermax could still kill him.
Mhm.
So, yes, we want to keep him out of the US, but I'm worried about him today and tomorrow and next week.
Sure.
And yeah, that's how I see it. He doesn't deserve to be there. You don't put a journalist in with terrorists and murderers and let them rot for years. I mean, what is this? Is this friggin' Egypt? Like what is this? That we do this to publishers in the West? The West has the same principles as a third world country run by a tin pot dictator. That's what it comes down to. It's when you take the mask off, the Western countries are military dictatorships with governments that exist only to provide a veneer of civility. It's the military that is prosecuting Julian Assange. And it's just using judges and politicians as the face of it. But it's the military that those whistleblowers whistleblew on, that Julian published information about. They're the ones saying that he must be made an example of, that that's who's torturing him, and that's who might kill him yet.
I think that sums it up. I mean, all you can really say is that this is a very, very dark, horrific thing that's happening in human history that we are living through, that we're all, living through. And I think the best thing everyone can do is stay on the right side of it and, amplify that as loud as we all can. And, there's so many people who have been boots on the ground in London and around the world, and who have not, let this story fade out, who have kept it in the spotlight week after week. And I applaud them. And there's a lot to name, which is encouraging. And I really am so thankful for what they do. And I think at the end of the day, obviously, we're hoping for. I mean, we're sincerely hoping for a just outcome where he gets his freedom. And then beyond that, after he gets his freedom, the mission becomes, how do we do everything in our power to build a society where nothing like this can ever happen again? And I don't have a clear answer for that. I don't think any of us do.
Everyone has to have the ability to publish. Everyone has to have the ability to whistleblow in safety and numbers.
Well, of course.
They can't put all of us in Guantanamo Bay or the UK's Guantanamo Bay, Belmarsh prison where Julian is. Freedom of information, the ability to circulate information, the ability to form relationships and have channels and methods of communication, methods of publishing, methods of witnessing, eyewitnessing, and speaking about what we are witnessing. This is how we avoid having to have that one brave person stand up who then gets decapitated, was a word someone used today when we were talking about the leaders of the 60s and the civil rights movement and the deaths between 63 to 68 plus of a variety of human rights activists, high-profile human rights activists and movement leaders. They can only take those leaders away from us if we're dependent on leaders, if we are all reporting, all witnessing, all publishing, all whistleblowing. They can't do that to us. And that, ironically, is, and I'm not saying this to advertise it, but that is a huge part of why we're creating Panquake, is to give people the ability to meaningfully have a pathway, a channel for communication between each other, for circulation of information in a way which is verifiably not manipulated and not undermined. And that's what we need. We need 1 million WikiLeaks. We need thousands of them, thousands of WikiLeaks.
Mm-hmm. So, and for anyone who may have missed this at the beginning, I'll kind of reintroduce things here. Originally today, Suzie was going to kind of give us a kind of summary about Panquake and what it's all about. And then when news surfaced about Assange, that just kind of didn't really feel in the cards. I mean, there's a lot of a lot of emotions right now in regards to the news that dropped today. So Suzie, we'll have you back on to do something more kind of Panquake centric at a future time. But in the meantime, is there anything you want to say just about the platform and what it's about for now?
I'll say that in 2016, 2017, and 2018, Julian repeatedly warned about censorship on Twitter. Increasing censorship was his words. On Twitter, he railed against Facebook. He said that we need a cryptographic alternative to Twitter. He warned that people were being siloed into what he called a filterverse of one, where the information that we see on our screens is chosen, is selected by people who do not have our best interests at heart, by security agencies, by governments, by advertisers, by corporations, by the platforms themselves, deciding what we can see and what we can't see, breaking our relationships, unfollowing us from each other, disappearing our content from each other and replacing that content with what they wanted to be on our screen and what they wanted in front of our eyeballs. That was what Julian was talking about when he talked about the filterverse of one, that the systems themselves are filtering the information that we have access to and then confining us in it like an information prison. And we have developed a system, which you can learn about at panquake.com, which smashes the filterverse of one to pieces and we've architecturally done everything we can to live up to Julian's call for a cryptographic alternative to Twitter, where the user selects and opts into all 100% of the content that they see, where they can communicate with each other in a way in which can't be manipulated with. And I would like to talk with you about it another time, but I'm happy that we talked about Julian today. I didn't feel like I could talk about anything else given what's happened. I'm hurt by what happened because I wish it wasn't happening to Julian. I'm also hurt because every day that he spends in there is a day that he would have been helping more people, and he's being prevented from helping those people. There are citizen journalists, he would have been sharing their work constantly, he'd be mentoring them and supporting them. There are at-risk journalists and publishers whose lives he would be intervening in and saving. And he himself, his own life is being stolen away. And that's not right. He should be home with his family.
Yeah.
They should let him go. He should go home to Stella and the kids. And he should get to, like he once talked about his retirement days, and he said he would like to be pottering around his lab at the university. And that's exactly what Julian should be doing. He should be getting tenure at some university, working in some computer science lab, pottering around and dreaming up brilliant innovations for the planet. That's the future that Julian should have, and I pray to God that that's the future that he does have.
Me too. Well, thanks for being here. It was great to talk to you, and especially about this issue. You are are one of the brightest, and thank you for so much. I mean, everything you do. I mean, when I talk about the journalists and the independent media that has been stewards in this story, you are certainly among them. And you're among the leaders of them, and that's infinitely helpful and important for people like me who want to amplify these things. So thank you for that, and I look forward to the future when we just do a more Panquake centric thing. I got to see a demo, and I can say there's a lot of really neat features. I won't go into detail because it's not public yet, but there's some really neat creator friendly features. And I look forward to a future time where we're both more in like social media talky, promote this cool new thing mode, and can talk about it. But in the meantime, I encourage everyone to go to panquake.com to learn more. And is there anything else you'd want to mention to steer people to before I let you go, Suzie?
The best way we can give homage to Julian is to build solutions and support solutions. And I'm not just talking about Panquake. We have a world full of problems. We have very few solutions. We need to create more solutions. Julian created solutions. WikiLeaks was a solution. WikiLeaks Dropbox and ability for whistleblowers to submit documents securely was a solution. We need more solutions. Get involved in them and support them no matter what area of activism it's in. We can't sit around and hope the world will be changed for us. We have to get off our backsides and do it. That's all.
All right, Suzie, thank you so much for being here. We will have you back on to do a more Panquake-centric thing. But in the meantime, thank you. And thank you for everything you do. And everyone check out panquake.com in the meantime. And, thanks for everything you do, and stay well. I know it's been a tough day for you, so I appreciate you talking to me some.
Thank you so much, Ron.
All right, cheers. So, little different. Not the episode I was planning today. but it's called Get Your News On with Ron. That's what it's called. Get Your News On with Ron. And sometimes the news is heavy and gives you a blind side. And, it was, I think it was right that, I mean, I just happened to have Susie scheduled today. Like again, we were just planning on talking about Panquake. Um, but then this came to, that this headline was in the news today, and you saw what happened. And I mean, I can't think of a better person to talk about it than Susie. And again, this is someone who knows him personally, who knows Julian Assange personally, which is a perspective that I can't give. I don't know him personally. I can't give that perspective, but she can. So I mean, even though it was heavy, and even though her day is different than it originally was going to be, I'm glad she got to share that with us, and I hope she feels the same way. I think she does. Uh, so yeah, I'm glad for that. And in the meantime, check out Panquake Dog. It is very neat, and I look forward to when we have that more that more appropriate that more appropriate, just kind of talking about Panquake centric thing. It is pretty cool. And for those of you who tuned in late, Assange, the U.S. is still pursuing extradition, and basically they rolled back the claim that he can't be extradited to the United States. And so they're going to have another hearing of that on October 27th and October 28th. And in the meantime, he continues to be in these absolutely horrific conditions in the Belmarsh prison, which by the way, it's not like he's, again, and Susie reiterates that, and it's important to reiterate, it's not like he's sitting in a nice facility. It's terrible, the conditions he's in, and Susie summarized a lot of that. So it's absolutely terrible. And now there's going to be another hearing, and I think Susie was right when she said, "Gee, the second worst thing," and it's horrible to reckon with, but it's the truth. The second worst thing is he gets sent to the United States. The first worst thing is he doesn't make it there, and that's hard to even say out loud. But the one thing that I have a little bit of hope in, and Susie echoes that hope, is that more people are coming around on this. And to the surprise of nobody, the United States is last. but but nonetheless, some people are coming around, and some of you guys are shouting Kevin Gostola in the chat. He is one of the journalists who is the boots on the ground for this. And he's doing amazing things on this. There's a lot of people out there who are boots on the ground in London. Gordon Dimmick's another one. Caitlin Johnstone has been publishing some amazing things. All the Action for Assange folks. I'm not going to name everybody because there's a lot of people to name, and I don't want to forget anybody. But there's a lot of people out there who are refusing to let this story die, and have been boots on the ground for the rest of us who are doing what we can to amplify this. And it's what they do is incredibly valuable, and my hat goes off to them. And I think we can all do our part to the best of our ability. I recommend everyone do what I did, because honestly, when I did it, I felt a little better. And I'm not saying this, to kind of pat myself on the back in any way. I'm doing very little compared to the people who are out there. My hat is off to them. They deserve the pats on the back, not me. Not me. I don't deserve any pats on the back. But one thing I did do was I made just a post, and I said, hey, for everyone out there, especially just people who might not be paying attention to this as much, might just have what the corporate media has fed you, this man should be freed immediately. What's going on with Julian Assange is a crime against humanity. And if you're not sure why that is, because you've heard whatever, feel free to email me and I will share with you what I know. And I'm not going to judge you, and I'm not going to tell you that you're stupid because maybe you only heard the stuff that's on MSNBC. I'm just going to tell you, and there have been some people in my personal life who don't watch this show, who don't, they just know me in my personal life. They probably don't even know the name of my show. They just know I'm a comedian on the internet. That I was able to talk to and change some minds. And that's something everyone can do. Just post that. Just post it. Just post it on your personal Facebook. You might be pleasant. You might get some comments where people just repeat, bullshit talking points that have been debunked many times over. But you might also get emails from people that genuinely want to learn, that maybe all they heard was, the bullshit propaganda narrative. And you can one-on-one engage with that person. So, I encourage everyone to do that. I did that, and, I came out just feeling a little better about things. You know what I mean? I just felt like I'm like, man, there's a couple people in my personal life who feel differently about Assange now. And even though that is a very small drop in the bucket, it does help. It does help. So, let me go through the chat, and I appreciate y'all sharing your thoughts with me today. Oh, it's jumping around on me. I'll go to Rockfin first. Lucy's on her cat tree. That's where Lucy is. Dennis, what's up? You say, Denny, you say, thanks, Ron and Suzie. Thank you for that, Denny. Thank you for helping keep this show on the air. Carolyn, what's up? How are you? Thanks, Ron, for having Suzie Dawson on today with this update. I sure appreciate what you're doing. We all need WikiLeaks and Panquake badly now. Thank you for that very much. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Carolyn. And it is disgusting what they are doing to Julian. You're absolutely right, Suzie. His punishment is brutal and ongoing. Absolutely. And then you say, oh, Jesus. It's jumping around all over the place. Fucking ball bearings in his food. I missed that news. It breaks my heart. Yeah, it's criminal what they're doing. It's absolutely criminal what they're doing to this guy. It breaks my heart what they've been doing to Julian and are continuing to do. Suzie, thank you for all you've done and for all your tireless work and brilliant communication of the truth. It's much appreciated. And everyone check out panquake.com. Let's see here. You hit the nail on the head, Ron. I was thrilled to find you talking with Suzie Dawson today. Thanks for all you do. Thank you for that, Carolyn. And yeah, it was wonderful to talk to Suzie today. Even though, of course, it was not the happiest of circumstances and not what we were originally going to do. It wasn't what we were originally going to do. Plans changed today. They really did. But, like I say, it's called Get Your News On With Ron for a reason. That's what it's called. Richard, thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. Thank you very much for the Super Chat contribution. You help keep the show on the air. The show would not be on the air without your generosity. So thank you, everybody. Thank you to Carolyn. Thank you to Denny for your Rockfin tips, and thank you to Richard for your Super Chat contributions. You help keep the show on the air. And folks, I have a couple more thank yous I have to give before we sign out here today. And I want to thank everybody. For some of you may know this, that my movie trailer dropped yesterday. And I got to thank everybody for their kindness and for their support thus far. And I want to thank everybody. I know it's a weird time to be talking about a movie considering the episode we have. But I want to take a minute to thank everybody for their generosity so far. My movie Left It Wall, the trailer for it was dropped officially yesterday. And I'll put the link in the chat in case anyone is interested in checking it out. It just started, and I will put that in the chat for one of you who, for anyone who wants to check it out and learn more about it. It is a project I am very excited about, and every day on this show, I am going to thank everybody who gives to it. We have a GoFundMe to try to make the movie a reality. We filmed the trailer, and now we're hoping to get the funds to make the movie itself. And I want to take a quick moment to thank everybody who has given so far. Thank you to Anonymous. I know your name because you gave, but if you register as anonymous, I will keep it as anonymous because I don't know if you want me to say your name. If you do, feel free to email me and specify that. But you're listed here as anonymous, so I'll say anonymous. Thank you very much, Anonymous, for your incredibly generous contribution. Thank you so very much for a very, very generous contribution. Thank you, Renee, or Rennie. Thank you very much. Thank you, Podcast by George. Check out Podcast by George, by the way. Thank you, Brittany. Thank you, Annalise. And thank you, Kim. Thank you all very, very much for your contributions for this film. This movie is the biggest undertaking I have ever taken on in my lifetime. I thought about it. It's the biggest undertaking I've ever taken on in my lifetime, making a freaking movie. So thank you so much. And if you are interested in watching my movie trailer and learning more about it, and if you are able and you want to make a contribution to help make this movie a reality, I left the GoFundMe link in the chat. And for those of you listening to the podcast later, you can go to GoFundMe.com and type in the title of the movie, which is Left at Wall, the word left at wall. No spelling gimmicks, just the word left, the word at, the word wall. Left at Wall. You can search that and you will find it. It's the first thing that pops up. And it's a movie that calls out Wall Street, folks. It's an explainer film about Wall Street that's based on what happened with GameStop. That's what it's based on, but it's a fictional story. Yeah, I'm excited for y'all to see it. I really am. Richard, thank you. Ray, what's up, buddy? Thanks for talking about this. Thank you, Ray. Thanks for being here today. And Deadeye, thank you for your super chat contribution as well. Thank you all very much. And yeah, and Indy Left pointed this out in the chat, and I think this is worth repeating. You said Ron's silence is all of us right now. Thank you for that. There were times I was at a loss for words amidst the show today, and thank you for pointing that out because I do think that's it's nice to know I'm not alone. It's nice to know I'm not alone in feeling that way. Because it's very heavy, not just what's happening, but it's especially heavy when you're talking with someone who has a personal relationship with the guy. And not only are you seeing this crime against humanity that deserves an emotional response and warrants an emotional response in people who have a pulse, but also people who it's personal for them. That makes it even heavier. It really does. Tiny Dancer, thank you very much for your super chat contribution. Thank you for helping keep this show on the air. And for the dancing pair, I love the pairs. I love the frickin' pairs. So thank you, Richard. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Deadeye. Thank you, Tiny Dancer. And over on the Rockfin, thank you, Carolyn. And thank you, Danny, for your generosity and your super chat contribution. And again, thank you to everyone who has given to the movie GoFundMe so far. I'm so excited about this thing. I'm really excited about this thing. Please check out that movie trailer. I'll be showing it on the stream on another time. I think that's not something that I'm going to do today, but I'll be showing the trailer. We'll be talking more about it on this show. But I'm very excited. Again, that movie is called Left at Wall. If you go to GoFundMe.com, you could just search Left at Wall. You can watch the trailer and make a contribution if you want to see it, and if you are able to. And we're very, very excited. And thank you to everybody so far. Again, I'll go through that. Thank you, Anonymous, Renee, Podcast by George, Brittany, Annalise, Kim. Thank you guys so much. And I can't wait to start making this movie. And you can watch the trailer now if you want to see what this movie's all about. And of course, folks, tour dates, I got them. Grandma Wood and I, ronplacone.com to grab your tickets now. San Francisco, Sacramento, Los Angeles, Tucson, Tempe, Detroit, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Philly, New York City, Washington, D.C., Asheville, Jacksonville, Gainesville, Orlando, Miami, Tampa, Nashville, Louisville, Indianapolis, Chicago, Minneapolis, Madison. Don't wait. Grab your tickets. ronplacone.com for all those tickets. We can't wait to see you. We cannot wait to see you. And in the meantime, you guys know the drill. Lucy, she says meow. And let me pull up a pet. I'll do a pet here before we sign off today. Because I feel like at a heavy episode, sometimes you just need to see a furry loved one or get a shout out from a furry loved one. And you guys know that my furry loved one is Lucy. But let me see. Let me see where we're at here. Let me scroll down. I got to scroll down because I try to cut. Oh, here we go. Look at this one. Oh, this is another pretty black cat. Here, let me show it so you guys can see it. Look at that. Gimli, right? Gimly, Gimli. Okay. And this is from Progressive and Proud. Thank you for that. Gimli is a very pretty black cat, just like my pretty black cat. So Gimli says meow, and Lucy says meow, and Progressive and Proud says peace, and Suzie says peace, and I say peace, and we say free Assange now. Free Assange now. Free him now. I'll see you guys next week. And in the meantime, free Assange now. Peace, love, and a general strike. Thanks for being here, y'all. Peace.